absolutely delighted to be joined by Juergen Steinmetz, the owner and pioneer of eTurboNews. Juergen, tell me a bit about yourself and ETN.
Well, I'm German, originally from Düsseldorf, and I moved to the United States way back in 1984. I ended up going through several states before I ended up in Hawaii in 1988, what is quite some time. I used to live in a very remote area of the island on our beautiful North Shore, what is as remote as it gets. And 2 years ago, I made the major step to move to civilization. So anyone who has been to Hawaii, I'm right across the Ala Moana shopping center, the largest shopping center in the Pacific. 5 minutes walk to the Hilton Hawaiian Village in the heart of Waikiki. And I'm where everything is. And this was quite an experience for me. I learned how to operate dishwashers. I had an air condition. So I'm now from a country boy. I'm now joining the city society here. And
you've become metropolitan, which is fantastic.
And eTurboNews, my publication was started back in 1999. It had a different purpose. My company at the time represented the Ministry of Culture and Tourism for Indonesia in the United States and Canada. And we did this during the most impossible times when the United States issued travel warnings for anyone to travel to Indonesia. So when email just started back in the late 90s, I thought an inexpensive way to get this message to the travel trade is really to send them emails. So I was looking for a solution. We had Yahoo groups at the time when it all started. And we had a sponsor because the government didn't pay us enough to take this from this little money we needed to pay our expenses for this project. And we teamed up with a company called eTurbo Hotels out of Singapore, what was the first online booking engine, similar to what Expedia, Hotels.com, and these guys are doing, but way back in the beginning stages. They bought all the domain names in Indonesia. They had Hilton.id, they had Indonesia.id, and with the help of our new publication or letter or whatever it was at the time, they got a little bit of awareness from people who actually can use their platform to make bookings, and that's how they made the money. And that's how we got this impossible name, eTurboNews, what was very difficult for branding. So that, I think, made us the first online newsletter in the industry. And later on, when we stopped our project with Indonesia a year or two later, I had so much fun with this newsletter, and so we tried to expand it. So that's when we really went to guys like anything from ITB and all these guys in the business trying to expand our database. And I think we did this successfully. We started with about 13,000 names in the beginning. We're now at 230,000 online subscribers, but more important, this entire business and the shift in this business and the online business has changed dramatically with the social media coming into the picture. So in March, our analytics show that we had 2.06 million unique readers. And these are definitely not all travel professionals. These are people, they read our articles because they find it on Google, they search for something. And so we're very much aware of it, also not only from a commercial standpoint, so when we work with the destination or with the hotel, trying to get our content positioned, but it's also important to really to understand how media works, and we went through this entire pioneer thinking. I know way back when Peter Greenberg was already out there and very strong at a WTTC conference. This was right after the tsunami crisis in Southeast Asia. He said he doesn't trust social media and he doesn't trust all this internet media. And he saw me and said, except for eTurboNews, we rely on it.
That's the power of being present. That's the answer. Well, I mean, I have to say, to have a readership in the millions nowadays doesn't sound that impressive. I only say it doesn't sound that impressive just that the power of the internet has enabled a huge reach of being able to get people to read you. But having a readership and circulation of 2 to 3 million is something that many broadsheet newspapers would be very happy with. This is a huge readership, Juergen, and it's very impressive.
Yeah, it's not only the readership. We tried a few things over the years. We now actually, besides eTurboNews, we actually have 16 different publications, including our German language edition, eTurboNews.de. What I have to admit is quite small. But we also teamed up with Business Travel in Germany, what is doing a lot better. We do have meetings.travel, aviation.travel. So we teamed up with the .travel people on a lot of these things. We went into gay tourism for the LGBT. We went into wines. So we went into all kinds of different segments. But to be honest, everything is falling back to eTurboNews, our initial publication. So even when we tried very hard to position something else, it is a struggle. But many times we stop trying, and then we publish it in both in different versions. So it looks like once you have an established brand, it's a lot, even though this brand is very difficult to pronounce, it seems like you fall back to this brand. So now I'm debating, I mean, why do we even have to do all of this and establish meetings and all these other things, you know, if eTurboNews is doing pretty good. So it's a learning process, yeah.
Well, I mean, if what you learn is what you've already learned is it makes sense, then you're not wasting your time. So, I mean, this is eTurboNews. You cover a wide range of subjects. I know the current crisis has caused mayhem amongst your readership, and you've obviously been covering it extensively. Tell me more about rebuilding travel, because this is one of your projects in response to the crisis.
Yeah, rebuilding travel started with an idea because every one of us are now, we're all sitting at home, most of us at least. We're working with Zoom and other platforms to communicate with each other. And so we saw a spike also in readers because people seem to have really more time. There is no business, so people can read the news. And we publish every hour, 24 hours a day, and the spike didn't let loose. So I figure maybe we can try to contribute to the discussion because this crisis is taking everyone by surprise. I know I was in Berlin visiting an ITB, what never happened. We teamed up with Mario from Pata for an event we couldn't do. And ever since it's history. So I'm sitting on an island, what has been spared for the most part. And I'm hiding here. I don't want to go anywhere. So we're all sitting at home. And when I sent out this call for rebuilding.travel to get people to join us, it's not a member organization. We don't charge any money for it. The response was quite overwhelming and even surprised me. We currently have tourism leaders in 117 countries, including several sitting ministers of tourism, even as surprising as I can say, the minister from Syria joining our discussion. And what is good? It's always good to discuss. And now I teamed up a little bit with Dr. Peter Tarlow, who is an expert in travel security and safety. Dr. Tarlow is partner of our company. We teamed up with his Tourism and More. We call it now Safer Tourism. And even before the crisis, we have done a number of projects with Jamaica and Sandals Resort, with several others destinations on safety and security, what falls right into this discussion point. We're now thinking of going to the next step. And we don't really want to start an organization. We definitely don't want to compete with guys like you. That's not our mandate. But what we're trying to do is to get people to talk to each other. And we're looking what's the smartest way of doing this. So recently we assigned a lady in the Balkan region, she's in Montenegro, to introduce this concept of rebuilding.travel in her region. She's been quite successful, and I think it went up all the way to the Prime Minister. So, and I've been approached by several other similar projects, people who want to get involved. What we also did, we added 2 more websites to this. One is reopeningtourism.com. We have rebuilding.travel, what anyone can be part of and sign up. Then we have reopeningtourism.com, where we do charge a small fee. And then we communicate those that are reopening the industry on this platform, but we also include, this type of coverage in eTurboNews that is just starting. And then we have something what's called resilience.travel. It's also resilient.travel, so you can do either way, where we collect initiatives. Like we just added the WTTC initiative, we added several others like this, and then we can put this out as a resource. We don't charge anyone there either, but as a resource for people for best practices and see what could be adopted. We can go to guys like here in Hawaii, to the governor. I've been active here a little bit locally. We also have a local publication, what's Hawaii News Online, trying to cause a little bit of trouble to get us locked up a little bit longer. And we were successful. So yesterday, actually, Governor Egan announced no tourists, at least till the 1st of September. So it's all of this are moving projects, and they seem to be doing okay. We don't know where we're going with this right now, but it's something what's out there.
And do you think, I mean, we're talking about rebuilding.travel and resilience.travel. Is there anything in particular you think has to happen before travel starts? It could be to do with the virus, I suppose. It could be to do with the infrastructure. Because at the moment, everything is in a coma. We've got an extraordinary failure of demand and of supply at the moment. And this is a uniquely difficult time. What do you think should be in place before we can really say, look, we've got everything in line for a recovery?
And this is it's a very difficult question because our world is interconnected. Mm. When I look just in our own little part here, we're here in Hawaii. We have been very successful. We are the state with the lowest number of infections. Unfortunately, we had 22 people who died in the process. We have 78 active cases. So it is quite low. And that's thanks for not letting tourists in, because everyone coming in here needs to go into a quarantine for 2 weeks. And if they do it legally, they cannot even go to the hotel lobby. What, of course, is very discouraging for someone to see the beach, maybe from their hotel window, and they cannot get to it. So the entire industry is coming to a stop. But economically, in a state like Hawaii, it's devastating. We went from a state with full employment, where we're looking for people to move here from different parts of the world, even from overseas. We try to encourage our federal government to issue special visas for people to come here to be able to work in the hospitality industry. And all of this is now seems to be history. We have the highest unemployment rate in the nation. Just last night, Halekulani Hotel, what probably many of you know, it's our #1 luxury hotel in business for more than 100 years, decided to close at least for a year, based what they say on information by experts. So they're using the time for remodeling. And this list goes on and on and on. When you go to Waikiki, you feel like you're in a ghost town. A few businesses open, restaurants are now allowed to be open, hotels are allowed to be open, but most of them are not. Now, when you look at the situation in the rest of our country, in the United States, you don't even want to listen to the news anymore. It's really scary. States like Arizona, Florida, California, I just understand they just decided to close everything down again. I had an interview with a lady from Key West, 2 days ago on Friday, where she said, oh, everything is okay here because we only have one road in and one road out, and these numbers are now going up. We don't know. You see at the European reaction of not allowing American travelers coming to Europe. What never happened in my wildest dreams, I would have not thought, it's going to be a challenge to travel to Europe. And this world is changing. Now, many people say domestic tourism. Domestic tourism is not all domestic, it's also regional tourism. So what I would assume in Europe, domestic tourism would probably mean travel within the Schengen area, or maybe expanded to the old EU borders, what could be considered domestic and regional tourism. And that I've heard, and we reported about initiatives, Germans now going to Mallorca again. These are all initiatives. As long as this can be kept under control, we only know 2 weeks later how this test goes. And God forbids if this is done carefully, maybe that is a baby step after baby step. But to have this word interconnected like we knew it just a few months ago, I don't see this happening. Even if we open, in the case of Hawaii again, our flights to come in here in full force, and we had more than 30,000 arrivals every day into the state, I don't see 30,000 people getting on airplanes and coming here, unless you have $1.99 sales all inclusive. People are scared. So it's not only reopening the industry, it takes a lot of education and assurance. And I don't know about what is out there now. It looks like everyone is experimenting. I know WTTC came out with an excellent research on their version, how to reopen and assure travelers destinations are safe. But when you see that a destination like Fort Lauderdale, where God knows how many people die every day now, could be considered safe in the WTTC stamp of approval, that doesn't always add up. And so I think we all have to be a little bit more careful in how we say things and do things. This WTTC could be a great initiative, and it probably is. But we have to be careful in using the word safe, specifically when it comes to the North American population. We have lawsuits here, and and this could be a can of worms after this. I don't know. I don't have a solution. I mean, you probably have a solution before I have a solution.
I don't know. You say that we now have to be careful about what we say, Juergen. It is bad news for me because I'm always accused of not being too careful. And it's bad news for you because you need to interview people and get them to say difficult things. I think surely, I mean, what we need confidence. We need consumers thinking that the risk, and all travel involves risk, but that the risk posed is worth the experience. This is what they need to think. What concerns me is the state of the lift. And are airlines flying into Hawaii at the same level as they used to, or is it have they shrunk right down?
No, they're shrunk down 90-some%. We do get right now again about 2,400 people coming here every day. Out of this, about 400 tourists. I have no clue. These tourists are probably not coming here to go to quarantine, all of them. So I don't know how well this works. We got a lot of military traveling between the island and the mainland, and we have our local population going back and forth. Las Vegas is open, so people want to get out. I want to get out. I'm sitting on a rock. I haven't left for the longest time ever since I remember. People do like to travel. Don't get me wrong. We do want to go things. If I could, but is it the right time to do? I agree with you. We have to. The industry, I think, has to work on improving confidence in a responsible way. That's what we have to do. We need to find those opportunities that are out there and help to promote this. I mean, I'm involved quite a bit with the African Tourism Board. It's an organization I started actually. And so I'm involved in their Project Hope initiative in reopening Africa. Yes, and I have to admit, Africa is a completely different continent than Europe or North America. You have wider spaces, you can distance a lot better. So maybe tourism is shifting in a way we never expected. I don't see the mass tourism coming back too soon, but I think niche markets that are fairly considered safe, where you can do all these things we're told to do, like social distancing, is probably the first we should help to get reestablished. Aviation industry is a tough one because you cannot just distance on an airplane. A social distance on an airplane. But again, there are so many people talking about initiatives to make flying safe, and it probably is safe for the most part. It's just a perception in a lot of ways. But you cannot, it's not a black and white decision. You cannot say it's safe to fly to Florida and it's safe to fly to Spain. They're two different, completely different countries, or it's safe to fly to Kenya, for example. So I think we need to credit the consumer a little bit more of being more intelligent and informed these days, and not just say, okay, now everything is safe, you should travel again. That's not going to work in this world right now.
So do you think that 21 is going to be, I mean, a lot of people are talking about a recovery in 21, but you seem to imply it's going to be more of a bridge year, where we're going to climb back gradually towards the sort of volumes that we had in 2019.
I would think hopefully if we get this virus under control in a way of vaccine or whatever it might be by 21, it's going to be a learning process in how we reshape this industry. And it makes a big difference whether you're talking about ground transportation, air transportation, overseas travel, regional travels, niche markets. There's so many markets out there in the travel and tourism industry that are, I think, perfectly safe even in today's time to be part of. I cannot imagine if you even in California, if you go to Death Valley and have a tour, or in parts of Utah and you go to the Arches National Park, that this is causing a big danger if you go in your family car. I don't think so. But there are other areas, going downtown San Francisco and go to a bar and have fun. That's something, you know, we might want to just think about it a little bit. So it's really not an A and B approach. And
No.
you know, so I don't know. I mean, there are people a lot smarter than me trying to figure this out.
Well,
What I'm worried about is that we're going, and I know we have to go fast. It's livelihoods behind it. There are people working in this industry. They have families. I understand this. But if you go too fast, wouldn't that mean this? You would get a step back every time you go one step forward. You have two step backs. And where is this going to end? At the end, maybe it's better to be even more patient. Luckily, we have the resources in North America more, and in Europe more than we have in many countries in the developing world. Maybe it's time for the travel industry worldwide to find a solution to help each other out. That's wishful thinking, maybe, for the most part. Then we can maybe work on a global scale. So guys like you and WTO should get way more active than they are right now, instead of just shaking hands, or not shaking hands, I guess, and saying how great they are. It's time for the world to come really to seriously come together. And it becomes a political issue. I mean, if you look like guys like Trump, our President Trump, in going against everything, no matter what it is, it's a tough one.
so I'm just trying to get some a fix on when you think recovery will take place, because recovery always takes place, Juergen. I mean, maybe we're looking at a uniquely bleak outlook, but I tend to think that the demand will continue to exist for travel, even for intercontinental travel. And I think what concerns me, and it's what I'm sort of prodding you into speculating about, is what will it take to get the airlines going again, because we need that capacity. Without airlines flying, we don't have any tourists, or we have very few long-haul tourists at any rate. And what's interesting about the current situation, and concerning on one level, is that all the other big slumps you and I have witnessed, be it 86, be it 91, be it 2001, be it 2007, these have all been, the recovery has always been led by airlines protecting their capacity but reducing their fares, and great deals were offered. People started traveling again, and once you get that momentum going, the momentum builds up quite quickly. What I'm concerned about is that the moment the airlines don't have any capacity to protect, they've shrunk right back, and the recovery model they've got is that they will follow demand, they won't lead it. And that may put the brakes on the sort of recovery that we would normally expect and anticipate. I've answered the question for you, which is a terrible interview.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
I wonder, do you think that's mad, or do you think that that's a fairly sound point?
No, I think I agree with you on this. It becomes the security and safety communication becomes more important than anything else. Because I honestly think it's fairly safe to go on an aircraft, even today. You're not going to go on, there's still a lot of flights out there. Even here from Honolulu, we have, with 2,400 people going back and forth to the mainland, there have got to be at least 10 flights or more every day if they're fully booked. So people do travel still, and I haven't heard of anyone really getting sick, except at Hawaiian Airlines at a training session they had on ground. So airlines doing a lot to keep their environment clean, and they're very conscious about it. It's not only cleanliness. I know our reporter in New York, she said we should give protected gear to everyone. It's cheap. It costs, she figured it out, $8. Every passenger has to get into just protected gear before they get on the plane, and they can take it off when they go out. I have, it doesn't sound that far-fetched anymore, if you really look at it.
Can you imagine trying to climb out of one of those things inside an aircraft lavatory? It would not be easy. It would not be easy at all. Not a comfortable experience.
Protected gear, I don't know. That people do.
Tommy, I mean, you've given a wonderful worldwide kind of vision of what's happening, and you're quite right to raise the point that places like Africa have highly hypothecated tourism industries that are aimed specifically at foreign visitors. Things like the safari market. They cannot turn around and try and rely on domestic demand to support the luxury safari industry. It's just not possible, or it has very, very limited scope to do that. But I kind of just turn the attention to Europe. I mean, do you think? I mean, demand for Europe at the moment is closed. It's wrong to portray, I think, Europe as suddenly banning America. All that's happened is that Europe has continued with the exclusion of America in the same way that America has continued to exclude Europeans. It's entirely mutual, this process. I think I'm just wondering what you think the prospects for a European recovery are. Do you think this is going to be happening? Some people hope that we're going to see volume in October, November, December. Others say that we will have to wait until next year, and others say, look, it's 2022 before things come around again.
I mean, from a German mindset, and I'm German, some people say you would rather starve to death than not going on a vacation. So I think people in Europe with 6 weeks paid vacation, some of them, compared to us here, luckily to get 2 weeks paid vacation in a year in your working life, the chances for Europe to recover in this are quite a bit higher than the chances here in the United States for people to recover. Europeans already show this resilience. People, from what I understand, are getting in their cars. There are so-called corridors of safer destinations working together, like Spain and the UK or Germany or Greece and whoever is coming to the table. And these are all good initiatives. And you can, from what I understand, there's good demand. So people are really not that scared. When I talk to many of my friends in Europe, they say it's all safe, it's all made up, and they're coming up with these excuses. Not everyone who died on COVID really died on COVID. So people are either don't want to have it true, but on the other hand, they're sick and tired of staying at home and not do anything. Now you get different type of feedback when it comes to the retail shops. And my sister told me, even though all the shops have been open for a while, they're not really packed. People are not going in, and I can see the same here, but here it may be different because we don't have the tourists that are usually in the shops. But the travel demand, I think, if it's done smartly, can recover in Europe a lot faster than it could recover here. Plus, you have a lot of niche markets in Europe. I mean, if you look even at luxury hotel markets, they could really offer products within their own environment where people could enjoy. And you can stay in a hotel for 2 weeks and busy every day. There are guys like out the nature travel. It doesn't, maybe it's not the city bar hopping yet. But even there, I mean, you have destinations that feel it is safe. Europe's numbers also, after you reopened, did not go up in the same alarming way they went up in the United States. Why this? I'm not sure. Maybe you're doing something right we're not doing right here. But I think it's encouraging what I see in Europe.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Juergen, it's been absolutely delightful talking to you. You give me tons of insights. Half an hour has flown by, and it's been great interviewing you rather than the other way around. I have to say, it's been a unique experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.